We are live. Hi, Heather.
Yeah.
Welcome to Taming the Chaos of Entrepreneurship. That's a really long title for welcome to being an entrepreneur and all the ups and downs and goods and bads and stuff. So today I have Heather. Welcome, Heather. Can you hear us?
Yes. Thank you so
Okay.
much for having me.
Your screen is frozen, but it's all good. We can hear you. So we're good.
Oh, no.
Um, Heather and I met like almost a year ago, I
Mhm.
think, at a women's networking event. And I heard her heart for the first time. And I heard her heart for business, but I also heard her heart for the Lord, and I heard her heart for other people, and we just kind of really connected. And so we've gotten the opportunity to hang out a few times since then, and I'm so excited to have her on today because I really am excited about what you have to say today, Heather. So will you go ahead and just like give us a brief introduction of you, what you do, maybe how long you've been doing it, what made you go into business doing this?
Okay. Yeah, so I work with Christian women and helping them launch podcasts that they can monetize through. And then I also teach that process of how to create the monetization aspects. And I've been doing the podcast end of it for as a business, I've been doing it for maybe 6 months, but I've done the teaching how to monetize your business and things like that for about over 10 years. And and I've done podcasting for probably 8 years myself. And I've always told people how to podcast and stuff because it's just so amazing. I just never thought of actually teaching it.
Right.
So, yeah, and I kinda got into it all because of something where the Lord had one of my dreams had been crushed really big, and I'd been crying out to the Lord, and he called me into it. So, I don't know if you wanna go into all that, but yeah.
Oh, cool. Oh, cool. Um, I want to pick up on something you just said. So you have always been telling people how to podcast and
Mhm.
encouraging people to podcast. So at what point did you make the change and say, this is something I can charge people for? And does that mean you don't give away that for free anymore? How do you cross that? How do you cross that road?
Yeah, that's a good question. I I don't give it away for free all the way. There is a lot I will tell people for free because I realize that information is out there anyway, for one. But for two, there's a big gap between having the knowledge and then having the skills and discipline to implement it. So that's where my program comes in because I do a lot of live and interactive coaching with people and helping them do that process. So I can give a lot of value away,
Hmm.
but most people, I've had a lot of people who have tried to take it and go run with it. And then they come back to me later and they're like, I tried to make this happen and it's not going, help. And then that's when they'll sign up and invest in the program. So just because somebody says no to you on your offer doesn't mean you lost them.
That's good. I've heard it said, give away the knowledge for free, but the implementation costs.
Yes, the what and the why. Give away the what and the why and charge for the how.
Good. Okay, give away the what and the why, charge for the how. I
Yes.
like it. I like it. So you don't give away software, you don't give away processes.
No.
Give away the what and the why.
Yes.
I love it.
So
That's so good.
what are the steps and why is this valuable? But how do you do it? That's inside the program.
That's awesome. I love that. Thanks for defining that. So I like your story. One of the questions that I asked you last time we were eating dinner together, I asked, have you always been entrepreneurial? So I always ask my guests this. Is it run in your family? Are you a first generation entrepreneur? Can you tell us the story that you told me at dinner
I'm trying to think which one.
when you were a kid and you wanted to buy something, I
Oh,
think.
okay. So, yeah. So, for one, entrepreneurism has run in our family for I know at least 3 generations. And yeah, when we were young, my dad owned his own business growing up. So that was in us, even in that. But my mom had this huge vegetable garden in the back of our house. And my brother and I wanted to play hockey. And my mom said that we couldn't unless we could make the money to buy the equipment because it was very expensive. So we came up with some ideas, and our first idea was we would fill our little red wagon full of mom's extra vegetables from the garden every evening. And right before dinner time, while the moms were making dinner, we would go door to door with our little red wagon and sell fresh vegetables from our mom's garden. And we'd sell out every single time because people loved having those fresh vegetables brought to their door. And that wasn't making us enough money because hockey equipment was really expensive. So we got this magazine that came in the mail, which I kind of wonder if my mom had it sent, but it was for what's it called when you're trying to fundraising. It was a fundraising magazine for selling. So you buy candy in bulk and then you sell it for an upcharge. So my brother and I invested our vegetable money into that, and we started going door to door and selling the candy. And so we made the money for our hockey equipment that way. So we shifted and we
You have to
pivoted.
tell the story though, because people would ask you, what school do you go to?
Oh, okay. So yeah, I didn't know if you wanted me to go that much detail.
Yeah, I'm
But
a homeschool mom. Go there.
yeah, so we were homeschooled kids, and people would ask us, "Oh, what school are you playing hockey for?" And we weren't sure what to say, especially because back then it was illegal to homeschool.
Yeah.
So we asked our mom, and we're like, "We don't know what to say." Like they would ask us, and we would freeze, and they'd be like, "Okay, we'll buy this and this." And so we were like, "Mom, what do we say when they ask this?" And she said, "Tell them you play for Christian Heritage Academy, and it's a private Christian school." And so we're like, "Okay." So that's what we tell them, and that worked. I
I
think they
love that story.
assumed we were Catholic or something.
And then even one person called you out, right? And they were like, "Where is that school? I've never heard of that."
Yeah. And we froze again because we didn't know.
Your mom was brave and an outlaw before it was even cool. Homeschooling's cool now, but you guys definitely. I'm with you, Heather. I was homeschooled in high school back in the day when we were very, very, very few,
Yeah.
and now there's a whole community. So that is awesome. I love that entrepreneurial spirit. I think what I'm finding is that a lot of people are born with it. And you had parents that were able to kind of teach you that, or it kind of was inherited, whether great or not, and so it's very interesting to see. I know we recognize, like, when our kids are younger, when you see that and you're like, oh, like, it's really kind of born into you. Like, you can just kind of recognize that. Do you feel like that? Like, at a young age, you kind of knew?
It's weird because that did come naturally to us in those events. But as I grew older, I hated business and I hated being around people. But I think there was a lot of other things in my life
Yeah.
that implemented and had an effect. And I think that happens to a lot of us. And we don't realize that our natural gifts are getting squashed by other things that happened. And then those things kind of have to be reborn later at another time. And that's kind of what happened with me, because for the longest time I was super introverted. I hate this concept of sales was terrifying to me. Being around people and speaking publicly was horrifically horrifying to me.
Yeah.
And all that eventually changed, but it took things, growth and my identity in Christ, that
Mhm.
eventually started changing that.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna get to sales in a second because me and you said we want to talk about that. But I want you to tell us the story of the worst day that you've had of entrepreneurship, because so many of us have a really bad day, and we think there's no way I'm gonna ever survive this. And then a few months or years down the road, we can look back and be like, oh, we were gonna be okay. So I want you to share with us what your worst day has been that you can remember.
Okay, so my worst day was actually um kind of between two of my best days, interestingly enough.
Mm-hmm.
The cover picture of this episode was one of those days. And it was the day I was signing a book contract for a book. It was my first official book deal. And a, sh- a few days later, I don't even think a week, I had launched my first business coaching program. And in the middle of that, my husband came home and started packing up to leave me. So all this excitement was like kind of sandwiched between a nightmare situation for me. And as that nightmare situation came to its fruition for me, everything collapsed on both ends. And I just couldn't function. I couldn't do the things. I just went into mourning for a long time. And that was really hard for me. So everything shut back down. Even though it was launching, it was growing. The business stuff was growing amazingly at the time. It was that 2020 sweet spot where everyone was home, so you got that attention so fast and easy online.
Mm-hmm.
And I lost that wave. I lost that momentum of that launch, and that really did hurt over time.
Mm. How do you recover from those days?
I
Yours,
truly
yours wasn't a day. Yours was a huge life event.
Mhm. And
Um,
it changed my entire life
yeah.
because I lost everything. I lost my home. We had very successful business. I lost access to all of that. So, it shifted everything. But I think the recovery God had prepared me for before any of these events had happened, and that was that He was already teaching me for about a year and a half to 2 years at that point, how to walk with my identity in Him.
Mm.
And that seems like something we hear a lot, like,
Yeah.
"Oh, yeah, have your identity in Christ," but what does that mean?
Yeah.
And at the time that the Lord came to me and started speaking to me about it was in 2018, and I was very depressed, like darkly depressed. And the Lord came to me and he said, "Heather, where is your identity?" And I was like, "I don't know, Lord. I don't even know who I am. I don't know what's
Mm.
going on." Like my life was falling apart, my marriage was falling apart, all that stuff. That was before about 2 years before he left. And the Lord said, "Well, Heather, you'll find your identity in the very place you fear losing the most. What do you fear losing the most?" And I was like, "My marriage." I'm seeing it fall apart. I
Mm.
don't know what to do to fix it or how to save it. What do I do, Lord? And he said, "You have to put your identity in me." He said,
Mhm.
"Because anything that I give to you and anything I take away from you, you should be able to say, 'Blessed be the name of the Lord.' But if your identity is not in me, then no matter what I give to you or whatever I take away from you, you will not be able to say that. But in
Mhm.
fact, you might hate me or curse me for it. But if your identity is in me, then no matter what I give and no matter what I take away, you will be able to say, 'Blessed be the name of the Lord,' because we won't be shook.
Yeah.
I mean, it will be hard and it will be terrible, but we'll be able to stand fast if our identity is in Him because He's the one thing that cannot be taken from us.
Yeah.
So the Lord started establishing that in me starting in 2018, and my identity started shifting, which really did, I think, also rock the boat more in my personal life as well. Because just spiritually, if the other person is not willing to submit to those things of the Lord as well, it rocks the boat.
Yeah.
And so that was, I think, what gave me the endurance in the end to recover from everything was because otherwise I don't think I would have recovered at all.
How did you jump back into business after that? You said everything shut down. So what happened that you jumped back in?
Well, I ended up on the road. I ended up in Florida with somebody I didn't even know. Um, but in that process, and we were actually living out of hotels, I was recording content in the hotel lobbies that the Lord had told me to make. So I was being obedient, even though I was crying in between that. I was falling apart in between that. But it was that I
Okay.
knew what God had called me to do. And I knew that at some point it would be picked up again. And so I was obeying whatever he told me to do in the process,
Mm,
which was he wanted this video
good.
recording made.
Yeah.
And so I made them. But it was just a progressive thing of progressively starting to pick back up. Like, okay, you made these. Now what? What's next, Lord? And then
Yeah.
he would tell me what's next. And it was, okay, now create that. Now make that. And before I knew it, I was rolling back into that whole process of building and launching. But it pivoted, it shifted. And that part was hard too, because there's part of us that's like, well, wait a second. Did God give me this vision? And if he did, why is it looking different than what he originally told me?
All right. Um, so I want you to go there, but talk to content creators because I think you just picked up on something. Um, the Lord was asking you to make videos about specific things, and then you were in tears behind the scenes. Okay, so how do we as content creators walk the line, because you talk to content creators all the time, walk the line of being vulnerable or being real, being authentic? Where is there a line?
It's I think this is something that's so hard, and it's weird. Like, I think people are trying to talk about this concept nowadays, but it's a really hard thing because if you get good at making if you're good at what you do and you start putting it out, like when I first started putting out my content and stuff, I had so much knowledge and understanding behind me. My stuff looked really, really good. My stuff didn't come out looking like, I mean, obviously, I think it looks way better even now, but it
Yeah,
still looked professional. It still looked good enough to the point that people immediately thought, well, you're successful. And I wasn't saying things that weren't true. I was cautious
right,
not to do that, but it just looked well put together. And so I think a lot of times we see people's stuff coming out where it's well done, they're excellent at what they do. Well, we don't realize that they're still in the beginning stages of what they're
right,
doing. So they're
right.
struggling. So there's struggle there. But then
Yeah,
it's also hard to open up and tell people that you're struggling because then if you do, it's like, well, then you're not doing so good. And if you're not doing so good, then are you really as good as you say you are?
right. I heard somebody teaching the other day, you'll connect with this, about Aaron holding up Moses's hands and
Mm,
how just because like Moses did things that Aaron never did. But Moses would never have won that battle. The Israelites never would have won that battle had Aaron not held up Moses's hands in the Old Testament. And so, as consultants and coaches, sometimes you might feel even imposter syndrome because you've never done this that you're coaching your client to do. But that's not, just because you can't do it does not mean you can't coach your client to do it. And like, especially with you and content creators, like there's people that are like amazingly gifted to be content creators, and you as a coach can see that in them and draw out like amazingness. And it might not be that Heather will ever get there, but you can push people to the top 10 charts. You know what I'm
that
saying?
that is true. And it's a strange thing
Yeah.
for sure. Because when I first launched my coaching business and stuff, it was because I had already helped so many other people succeed or scale to the next level. And they kept telling me, Heather, you should be charging for this. You're so good at this.
Yeah.
But I didn't have anything yet. Like I
Right.
didn't have a business yet. But also, one of the big things I taught was niche. Like niche down, niche down. And I knew it from all my trainings and all my investments in business training. But then when I would look at my own offer, I would be like, this is not niched. I'm just being a vague business coach who says I'll help you with everything. That's not niched. Oh, I work with Christian women. Still not niched enough. What is the one problem? And I wrestled with that for so long, but I helped other people get breakthrough in it all the time. But eventually, this year is when I got my niche with the podcasting thing. And then that made a huge difference in everything starting to just grow, all my content getting really focused. everything just started coming into focus. And I was like,
Mhm.
whoa, this is amazing. Why have I not done this before?
Mhm.
But I was
Mhm.
trying. It just didn't work for me like it was working
Yeah,
for
yeah.
everybody.
Now somebody might still call you and ask you for something different, and you might be able to
Mhm.
do it, but niching down and really focusing in on who your client is a
Well,
great.
it's one of the things people fear the most about niching down, niching
Mhm.
down
I
is
hate the word.
I know, I do too, and also the constant battle, is it niche or niche?
I don't know.
The only reason I go with niche is because of the phrase, "The riches are in the niches."
Oh, there you go. Or in the ditches.
No. Well, they shouldn't be. The
No.
riches will get them out the niches will get them out of the ditches.
There you go. I like that better. Yeah.
Um, but but finding that niche is so valuable,
Mhm.
but people are
Mhm.
so afraid that when they find it, that it's going to lock other people out that they wanna serve.
Yeah.
And one of the things that really showed me that that's not true is I had a friend years ago who she had a business, I can't remember exactly what it was called now, but it was something like Business Chicks or something like that. It was obvious female, and all her coloring was very pink, and she worked with moms. That was her target audience was moms who wanted to build businesses. And she would run these events and these conferences, and these men would come. And then these men would be like, "Is there any way you would coach me?" Because the way she taught business was mind-blowingly awesome. She was super skilled
Mhm.
in it. And she was like, "Where are these men finding me?" And over time, she began to learn they were finding her through their wives, through other women in business they were talking to who mentioned her and the breakthrough she got them. And so she served men as well,
Mm.
even though she was a
That's good.
very woman-focused business. So that's the proof that a niche
Yeah.
isn't gonna lock you out. It's just gonna make you so focused that you're gonna have a particular problem to solve for a particular people, and that's very valuable because then those
That's good.
particular people will start talking and they know where to find you.
That's good. What's been surprising about entrepreneurship? What skills have you had to learn that you didn't know you were going to need in entrepreneurship?
All of them.
All of them.
Because you think, "Oh, I have this great business idea."
Right.
And then you put together kind of an outline for what that's supposed to look like, and then you start realizing, "Crap, I don't know how to do a website. I don't know how to make the content." Then you start looking up how much it costs because remember, when I started this
Right.
one, I didn't have all the funds. So I was like, "How am I gonna do this? I can't just hire someone like I've done before." So I had to learn it. And I was like,
Yeah.
"This is not my cup of expertise." But over
Yeah.
time, I actually became pretty good at a lot of it. And now I'm very thankful I did because as I'm preparing to build a team and start putting my work out to somebody else, I know what to expect. I know what it's supposed to look
Yeah.
like. I know if they mess up, what that's going to look like. So I'd probably be scary to work for. But
There you have it, people. Send your applications in to
yeah,
Heather Sudbrock.
don't be
No,
afraid.
I think that's really wise. And one of the things that I teach people all the time, especially with financials, is that you don't need to know everything, but you need to know enough to know if the person doing it is doing it right.
Yes.
And so a lot of people with financials want to, a lot of business owners want to remove themselves completely because they just want to be out. They don't want to do that. They're not gifted at it. They realize that and they want to be all the way out. And there's danger in them being all the way out because then you're abdicating that to someone else. You're abdicating your throne. You're giving away all of your rights. And I mean, you're giving them signatory rights and everything, rights to everything. And that's where embezzlement happens. And that's where fraud happens is because business owners don't have that knowledge to be able to oversee that particular piece of their business.
That's
Um,
interesting you're saying that because I literally just watched a documentary that came out on Netflix, was it? With Martha Stewart. And how she ended up in prison was basically because of that. She trusted someone else who was
Yep.
taking care of all her finances, and they called her when she was heading off to vacation and said, "Hey, we're gonna pull your money out of this. Are you cool with that?" She's like, "Sure, do it, whatever." And that was the very move that got her the attention of people that got her in trouble. So,
Yeah, business owners don't really, I don't think, stop to think about that. It's ultimately it's on the business owner because it's
yeah.
your name on that business. So yeah, wow. I think I've heard that story before, and I think I knew that. But wow, that puts it in perspective because she spent a couple of years in prison for trusting the wrong person.
Yeah, I think it came down to like 5 months in prison, 5
Hmm.
months of house arrest, and 2 years of community service or something like that.
Yeah,
But still,
but
she
now she's friends with Snoop Dogg.
she understands this concept that I
Yeah,
teach in my business called the wealth spa concept.
yeah,
And it's learning how to work from a place of rest, but you can only work from a place of rest if you know the process. And the process for SPA is SPPA, and it stands for shift, pivot, plan, and activate. And that's a continual process for the lifetime of an entrepreneur. And Martha Stewart knew how to do that. She knew how to continually shift, pivot, plan, activate, and repeat over and over.
yeah.
Like
That's good.
that part was very impressive about her life and her career. I didn't know much about her before I saw that. So I'm not
Shift,
saying she's
pivot, plan,
plan,
activate.
yes, and
Got
repeat.
it. And repeat
Because
every day, every
the minute
week.
yes, I mean, because things keep changing, as you
Hmm.
grow. And if things aren't changing and you're getting comfortable, then you're in the stuck spot before you even know it.
Yeah,
Because the minute things are comfortable, you're not growing.
yeah.
Growth is uncomfortable.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about sales. Speaking of uncomfortable, let's
Yeah.
talk about sales.
Let's do
We,
it.
so that's one of the things that entrepreneurs have to learn. And so a lot of people feel like I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to own this business, or I want to do this invention, or I want to do this service or something, and then they figure out, well, there's sales involved. So and I admit, like, that's been the biggest thing for me. Like, I get on these discovery calls. I have great times with people. I like you, you like me, but it's so hard for me to ask them to, like, okay, check the box, you know? So talk to me about what you've learned about sales.
I will I'm I'm in the wealth spa of sales, and that you're constantly shifting, pivoting, planning, and activating with sales. Like you're constantly growing
Yeah.
there. So I'm always growing there. But what I've learned so far is one of the things that took the fear of sales away for me was understanding that it's excellent service. If you serve somebody with excellence, that is what sales is, because people want to work with you when they realize that you can get them breakthrough. So usually on a call, I'll try to help somebody get some kind of clarity and breakthrough that will get them really excited. And
Yeah.
this has been an area where in the beginning, I would get excited when they got excited, so I'd keep giving them more. And before you knew it, by the end of the call, I had built out something really big and valuable for them. And then they'd be like, "Thanks," and then I wouldn't hear from them again because 'cause they'd go run off and implement what I gave them for free. And I'm like, "Dang it, I think I gave too much." And
Oh my gosh, I'm so guilty of that.
I kept thinking of that king in the Bible
Uh-huh.
who he showed the enemy king all the wealth of the
Right.
temple.
Here, yeah.
Yeah, and then they came back and robbed him. So I was like, "Oh Lord, I think there's a lesson in here that I need to learn." So I've really learned to be more conscious of, like, what is the win you're gonna give them. Be really specific and clear about what
Hmm.
that is. Like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna help them get clarity on their niche.
Yeah.
If I do that, then we now have the groundwork to go somewhere with it. Now, a lot of times, I think when I help people get that, they think they can now go run off with it and make it happen,
Yeah.
and they don't. Nobody I've ever seen has ever done it yet. but they think that. So that's a spot where you'll lose them in a sense if you don't understand what to do next. And that's the part that I'm learning right now, which is basically you get them that win, but then you also have to share with them the next wins, but you're only sharing the what's and the whys of those wins. Like, so this is what you're going to want to do next. And when you get this win, this is what it's going to do for you. And so that's what I teach inside my program.
Right.
And so you have to start building on your program on the call or whatever it is you're offering. You have to build it up and let them know that that value is there. So you're serving them, but you're also letting them know that value is there. And then you have to also make the ask, so to speak, at some point, which I don't like waiting till the very end to make the ask, because then you're kind of left hanging there and it's awkward. And it's like, and I've done that before and it's very awkward. So I like putting the ask in the middle end part where you're like, this is the program I offer. This is how much it is. I think this would be a great thing for you to sign up for. This will help you grow. And one of the reasons I encourage people to sign up for this is because, and then I'll give them those reasons. But you have to that's where you're kind of doing the thing in sales they call, what is it? Beating the, when people are coming up with, I can't think of the word.
Like beating a dead horse? Is that what you're talking about?
When people are coming up with rebuttals to what you're saying. What's that word?
Yeah. I don't know.
When they're pushing back.
Yeah.
Basic word. I can't think of it. But that's when you kind of come back with that, because they're going to have that ready of like, well, it's just not the time yet for that. Well, are you a parent? Yes. Okay. Was there ever a good time to have a baby?
Yeah.
No, there's not. There's never a good time for anything. Right. And if you think you're going to put it off 6 months from now, all you're doing is setting yourself back 6 months. So you're just being real with them. Yeah. But you're also letting them know, like, the excuse of saying you're going to wait 6 months isn't going to work.
No, it's not.
6 months from now is going to come like that. And what are you
going to
have?
And it's still not going to be a good time.
No, it not only will it not be a good time, but you still won't have what you're trying to build right now, because you need help to build it. And so those are kind of how you can come back with them without being super salesy, but you're having that conversation with them. But you do kind of have to step into that role of, look, you can put, and they might still push and want to put it off, or they might come up with another excuse, which sometimes it's, well, I need to talk to my husband. And unfortunately, when women say that, I usually don't believe them. Not that there are some women who want to talk to their husbands before they make a purchase, but if a woman really wants something, she's going to make it happen, usually.
I use that all the time, Heather, but you're right. Yeah. I totally, my husband trusts me with anything.
Honestly, when I had a husband, I used it too.
I could go buy a piece of land and he would never question. He would be like, cool, looks like a great deal.
But that's what I'm saying. It's just usually when somebody says that, that's.
Have you tried the I got this advice the other day from a guy that's been in sales for 20 years. And he said, once you give your spiel, once you show them the win, ask, then say, does this look like something that would help you? And he said, and then stop talking. And let the silence hang and make them say the next words.
Yes, but
yeah. And so I was like, oh, that's so hard for me to stop talking.
Because it feels awkward because you're waiting for the potential no.
Yes.
And so you're going to get,
I feel like,
But what we have to understand is it's not really a no. If they're sitting there on the phone going back and forth with us, they're wanting it. They just don't know how to say yes to it. And that's the part that's really hard too, because I watched my dad on the sales floor growing up. And that was what turned me off from sales and made me not want to be a salesperson, because my dad would talk anybody into what they didn't want,
Yeah.
and they would pay for a lifetime for something that they didn't want, because he was really good at doing that. And I didn't like that manipulation. And I was like, I don't want to be like that in sales. But this is what we have to understand. If somebody got on a call with you for something, they're interested in it to some level. And
Mhm.
if you've talked with them long enough to get them breakthrough, and you've seen that they're excited and passionate about it and whatever, then they actually do have need of this. And
Yeah.
you have the skills to meet that need and get them the breakthrough, then you should fight to get them that breakthrough in a sense. And that's what you have to see it as. Like, I have to help this person get clarity so they can see they need this now, so that 6 months from now they can have this result. And sometimes spelling that out for them, what that looks like, can help. And
Yeah.
then
That's
other times, no matter what you say, they're going to get off the call and say no. But I've had a lot of those come back later and say, "Okay, I've been thinking about it." But then there's more that don't.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's good. And you
yeah.
don't want to end up with clients that you coerced into being with you.
Yes, no, because I want people who are ready to make the
Yeah.
commitment. I've seen a lot of people, and I've been preparing to do this with my program, but to create an application process where they actually apply for
Mhm.
the program.
Yes. Yeah.
Because then you can ask those questions inside to see if they're really serious. Because I've had
Right.
people who've signed up for my more expensive programs, and then they aren't doing the work.
Yeah.
And then I can't help you. If you're not doing the
Right.
work, I
Yeah.
can't help you get the results. This
Right.
isn't a done for you program. This is a done with you,
With you.
meaning you have
Yeah.
to participate.
Yeah.
But I think a
So good.
application process could weed a lot of that out. I mean, just the fact that I've signed up for certain programs where there's an application process, and there's times where I'll go in and look at the application and be like, "Yeah, I'm not ready for this yet," and I'll
Yeah.
back out. But obviously, they don't want me if I have that kind of
Right.
wishy-washy mindset.
Yeah. 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 I signed up for one recently, and on a podcast. I was listening to a podcast, and I decided I trusted them enough that I was going to sign up for a consult with a free consultation with them, a discovery call. But they asked, like, they sent like 75 emails before the consultation call, and then they asked, the kicker for me was they wanted to make sure that every single decision maker was on the call, and we were able to make a decision on that call. Well, I knew this was going to be a high ticket offer, and I don't like to make decisions like that. I just want to think about decisions. I don't like to make them on the now as a business owner, I see the benefit there. I see that that needs to happen because I needed that service. I needed it enough to want to reach out, but they scared me away with that. And I canceled it because I just knew that they were going to insist on making a decision on the call, and I just wasn't ready. And you're so right, Heather, like, literally I wasn't ready. And I still like them. I still like their service, and at some point I might be ready, and then I might be willing to make that, to have that call. But I also know me. I like people enough that I will sign up for things just because I like them. I'm like, I like you.
Yes. That's the only thing that makes me sign up. I have to feel like they're able
Yeah.
to do what they say they're doing, and I have
Yeah.
to like them. But I
Yeah.
wanted to say with what you were saying, something I really wanted to say. What was it? About wanting to sign up and not signing up
Mhm.
and feeling that pressure to sign up. Sometimes I think that's where, and I tried to stay away from this stuff in business for a while, but now I'm starting to kind of see the value of some of it a little bit. But that's where, because this is what's got me to sign up for programs
Mhm.
before, is I don't like the pressure sales on the call. Don't tell me to bring all the authority figures on the phone who have to make the decision. For one, you just made me feel like a little girl. And for two, now I'm intimidated because how much is this going to be that you're saying this like this? But when
Yeah,
they,
and I probably imagined a much bigger number than it was. I had no
yeah,
idea.
yeah, that's so true. But then they, like, for example, this one program I had signed up for, we got on the call, they did all the questions, they answered all my butts. And then I still was like, I don't know. I don't know. And they said, well, you will have till 2 p.m. tomorrow to have access to this deal. And then the deal ends. That time pressure, I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I
Mm,
was percolating. I was doing all the math and all the work. Like, if I do
yeah.
this and take this course, how much faster is it going to get me to here? And the next day I signed up
Oh,
because that
yeah,
pressure was on there and I wanted that deal. And I knew the everything he had already answered all my rebuttals in a sense. Like, he had answered, like,
yeah,
6 months from now, where are you gonna be? If you take this, then this is gonna help you accelerate and get there faster. And all that was going through my head. But that little bit of pressure of the time, the limited time offer, was the
yeah,
thing that turned me.
yeah.
So sometimes I'm
Good
like,
idea.
I don't like that. It's manipulative. And it's like, no, I needed that push.
Yeah.
And that was
Yep.
the push that got me there. And it was one of the most valuable programs I ever did. It taught me so much. And I'm so thankful for that program. I'm glad I got that push. And because it was a pricier program, it was like a $10,000 program. I put every bit of effort into it back then for that
Yeah. Yeah.
price. So sometimes those pressures are needed, you know,
Yeah.
but in a good kind of a healthy way. I'm not making that person feel guilty that you didn't sign up right now. I'm just letting you know this is the timeline. It expires at this time tomorrow. So I didn't
Yeah.
feel like, I mean, hey, if I didn't want it, nobody's going to pester me for it. But
That's true.
now I know.
Yeah.
So it kind of put it back in my ballpark, which made me feel like I had the control again in some extent. And I think that's what made me feel comfortable enough to say yes. I've been on other calls where people are just constantly, for everything I say, they're coming back to fight it down. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, okay, now I just feel like car salesman kind of situation where you're trying to come against everything I'm saying and you're not hearing me.
Right.
I
Yeah.
want to know somebody's really hearing me
It's good.
and then
I think
that
that's a great tactic. Not tactic.
yeah,
Plan. Method. Method.
strategy.
It's
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
Strategy. I think that's true. I think that's
Mhm.
really good. I just learned something. That's awesome. Well, Heather, we talked about this a little bit beforehand, but the entrepreneurship life can be lonely, right?
Mhm.
Especially if you're a solopreneur, if you're just starting out. And so I think that it's been so good. The Me and you met at a women's networking event that we're both part of, and we go to, and the girls in that group have become friends more than, I mean, we give each other business, we refer each other a lot, but it's a place of friendship. And so I'm just really glad that both of us have figured that out. We're both learning, right, how to find friends in this place.
Yeah.
We were talking beforehand about it's hard because you're going to networking events and you're making business contacts and stuff. And then you have to somewhere along the way remember to have friends, just regular old friends. And so, Heather, I'm very thankful that the Lord brought you into my life and that we get to be a part of the women's networking group that we're part of, the Beehive here in Keller. And that we've made some friends. And so I just really am grateful for you. Thanks for being here today. Is
Thank
there
you.
anything else you want to say to anybody like entrepreneurs that are struggling today? What if they're having that bad day? Can you give them an encouraging word?
I would say, where is this scripture? I actually brought a couple scriptures up I wanted to share.
Oh,
Luke
good.
14:28-30 says, "For which of you, intending to build a tower, does not sit
Mm,
down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it, lest after he has laid the foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, "This man began to build and was not able to finish." This is the importance of having a plan. This
Mhm.
is the importance of creating that whole blueprint system, but then you also need to have that ability to shift, pivot, plan, and activate constantly because things will change. You'll come against a wall. I remember growing up when my parents were building a house and you would come against something like, "Oh, I want a window to go here." Well, a window can't go there. A supporting a supporting post is there, and that's just absolutely not possible. But that
Yeah.
was the vision, that a window would go there. It's not possible. Then what do? Do you quit? No, you have to shift, you have to pivot. To shift means to make subtle, small changes that are necessary. To pivot means to make a big 360-degree turn. So you have to make those little and big turns constantly. And then the other scripture is Habakkuk 2:2, which says, "Then the Lord answered me and said, Write the vision and make it
Yeah.
plain on
Yeah.
tablets, that he may run who reads it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end, it will speak and it will not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it." So now we're stepping into the supernatural realm where we have to learn to trust the Lord in these places because it will surely come and it will not tarry. So though it tarries, it will not tarry, meaning it may tarry for a time, but when it comes, it will no longer tarry.
Right.
But it can feel difficult when we're waiting in that
Yeah.
season where it's taking some time. But and the last one is Psalm 127:1, which I actually have it written on my thumb right now. This is how I memorize scripture. I write the verses on my fingers as I'm memorizing them. So
Uh-huh.
Psalm 127:1 is, "Unless the Lord build the house, they
That's
labor
right.
in vain who build it."
Mhm.
So bring the Lord into every conversation in your business
Mm.
and be willing to not just ask him, but be willing
Yeah.
to be still and wait and listen for what he has to say. And that's the hard part because we want to just have him say what we want him to say and then we want to be able to run with it. And usually, if you look at the scripture from Old Testament to New, the Lord will make you wait for it.
It's good. It's good. I like that. Heather, where can people find you?
They can find me at rainandjoy.com. That's rain like a queen, REIGN. Um, or on Instagram, I'm also at Rain and Joy, YouTube at Heather Sudbrock. So, yeah, those are some
That's
places.
awesome. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having
You
me.
guys go follow Heather, go connect with her. Be here next week. We will be talking to Brian Hassling next week, who is a financial planner, but he has become a friend of ours. And I'm just so excited. Like he loves all things. He loves to talk about money and finances, but he's so down to earth. And I think that you guys will really enjoy him. So be back here next week and we'll see you there. Bye, Heather. Thank
Bye.
you.